Are you guys getting hot? It is like
Yes.
toast in here. That's how long it's been. Like last time it was probably freezing in here when we recorded the podcast.
Yeah.
Can you hear
How hot it is?
No. Can you hear it if the fan is on?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Try it.
Yes, for sure.
Kevin's not going to put up with the fan being on, guys. Come on.
We can't do it.
You
Can't
know
be
he's
done.
not going to go for that.
Can't be done.
Dictator.
Yeah. Oh, let's move this mic a little bit closer to me.
You know what? I'm going to install that mic in your mouth.
John, I feel bad, but
I'm going to get that other bottle.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. This is episode number 45, and my name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with Randall Nolery,
Hey, everybody.
DJ Mandolini,
Yo.
and John Hines.
hello.
And we're back as usual to talk about some video games, and we're going to have a little bit of a follow-up from last week to start things off here. I've listened back, I was editing the podcast last week, and while I was putting it up and everything, I was just feeling kind of guilty that the capper of the Forager conversation, which I'm still playing a ton of this week, and actually had to now let John borrow my copy. I have the physical cartridge, which I think I mentioned last week, and I was like, okay, I need to get this out of my apartment so I can stop playing it, because I've dumped about 20 hours in now, I think, and still haven't even entered any of the dungeons. But
Nice.
Before we get into more of the game, I was just feeling kind of bad that the capper of the conversation, I was just like, there's a little splash screen at the start of the game where the image of the developer pops up, and it's like, hey, I worked really hard on this game, and I hope you love it as much as I do. And it I don't want to necessarily walk that statement back, but I just kind of felt bad how that capped the conversation off, and
It should have led the conversation. Just how that leads that fucking game.
No,
Well, I
he
just,
should
like,
feel bad.
I just I feel a little bit bad, but at the same time that I have, in the time since we've recorded that podcast and now, I have booted up that game a couple of times and been like, and that pops up, and it even it starts off, his little sprite is a little smaller, and it even makes a popping sound, and it pops bigger on the screen, and it just the only thing I think of while I see it is and I didn't finish that thought. I've actually then just been I'm going to play something else instead of this, because it annoyed me to that point, because it's just in my mind, even games that aren't good and anything that people work hard on everything. You don't need to remind me that you worked hard on this. So it still just really kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I felt bad about framing it that way and just kind of capping the conversation. I kind of wished I would have asked more how it would make you guys feel. And I guess we can just kind of lead off with John, since he just started playing Forager. He played maybe
Since
an
I've now
hour
seen
and a
that
half.
screen twice, and it pops up when you get a game over. But yeah, no, I kind of get your sentiment. When it popped up, specifically when it popped up after I got a game over screen, it did seem a little out of place. But it is, in the place of a developer's splash screen. When you boot up the game, that's the only thing. There isn't oh, this is made by so and so. That is the
Yeah, it's
screen that
I think
shows.
Hop Frog is the developer.
Yeah.
It doesn't say his personal name, but it's just also frustrating, because I've looked at some of the special as you play the game and you do different challenges and stuff, you unlock there's different weird comics and this and that, but some of it's design art and stuff. So there's a bunch of other people that worked on this game too. It wasn't just a solo dev 100% did the game design and stuff, but not the art and the music, and it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way that it just kind of, hey, give me a bunch of credit before you've even played the game. It just it just kind of bothers me a little bit.
I think I got a different, sentiment out of it. I don't think, to me, it didn't seem like it was beggy for credit, but I think it was trying to be I tried to do this for you guys. I don't know, trying to endear himself in a way.
Yeah.
I think you
It's
guys
just-
are pulling too much intent out of it in general. I think he's just introducing himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think about this at all if Kevin had.
100%.
I would have just been why do I have to see this thing every time? But I wouldn't have gone into like, what is he thinking?
Well,
I've really like trying to dissect the psychology behind
for
this,
sure.
but-
I understand that, and again, that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because I wished it would have been more of like a silly conversation of being like, Kevin, why are you such an idiot, as opposed to me just bashing on him.
Conversation.
100%. If that splash screen just showed up after like a credit sequence,
Yeah, that's
you would
how I
think
felt.
nothing of it. It would
Right.
just be a charming little thing.
I would be
that you
like, that's
saw.
awesome.
see
Just
that.
like, yeah, like, thank you.
But
you
it's
said, thank you so
frequency
much for
at the end
playing
of
my
Mario
game.
64, yeah.
You know, it's like, that's like, you know, Mario didn't even make that game, you know, but
A lot of other people worked really hard
yeah,
on that game.
yeah, exactly. So it just, I guess, I don't know.
It's
I've
the
booted up
placement
the
of
game.
it.
Yeah,
Like-
and I've booted up the game probably dozens, if not 100 times by now. So it's like, I see that every single time. It's just like, it just feels a little tryhardy to me. It just rubs me the wrong way.
How long
But,
is it on the screen? I've never played it, so I'm just taking that
2
second
seconds.
hand
Like 2-3 seconds, it
Okay.
just kind of pops
It's a
up
splash
and like
screen.
again, it like
Yeah.
yeah, they're just like it's nothing egregious or anything.
Yeah,
don't
it's
get me
enough
wrong
for you
here.
to stop playing.
Yeah, but like I said, it's just been like, it just rubs me the wrong way enough to where it just, I don't know. I'm not gonna keep. I'm reiterating that
Why
point a
don't you
little
just,
too
like,
much at
close
this
your
point.
eyes. You know it's coming.
I know. But I'm still playing it, and I again, like I said, I had to kind of pawn it off on John. I still haven't even really delved into the dungeons all that much, and or at all really.
Yeah,
but
it
I
seems
just
like you're not doing the part that has any substance.
I'm just like making a bunch of like, once I discovered, like, I don't want to spoil a bunch of stuff for John now that he started playing it, but like,
You can't spoil. I'm already at level 18.
well, I'm at level, I think 60 something.
Really?
And like, I think I might even have almost every skill
perk.
unlocked, every
Dang.
perk. I think there's 64 total. I think I think I'm just shy of that. But like, it's to the point where like now I can build power plants, which the more you build, like they keep costing more. Like most resources or like things that you build will cost not everything, but like not when you're crafting like glass or gold and stuff. Those always cost the same amount of resources. But when you're
Right.
like building a building or something like that, or something that's like producing something for you, I think that goes up in price. So like,
Yeah.
I've built like these mining rods that like you can build a quarry that both of these things go up in cost every time. So like you build a quarry that costs a bunch of different resources, and then in that little patch of land, a bunch of rocks will grow a little faster than usual. And then if you have a mining rod in that area, that'll break down to like zap all the rocks and break them. And again, now I have like perks that auto collect them for you, and it's getting just like insane. I've built like, I think 6 droids now that just like, the game chugs when I pause and go to the menu now, because it's just like I'm creating so many resources at once that it's just like it's just going crazy. But the droids now, like, okay, I'm not to. John was talking about like, oh, I accidentally killed some of the chickens, the chickens, you know, you can go click on them and get eggs. The sheeps, you can get fiber, which is kind of like wool or whatever. But the chickens, like, once you have the droids, they just go around and do all of that for you. Like, they do all the clicking on the animals. So, like, they're getting all the eggs. And now I also have perks that I get, like, I think 200% the resources that I normally get. So when you click on a chicken now, instead of getting 1 egg, I think I get, like, 6 at a time.
Nice.
Yeah. And, like, so it's just, like, exponentially, and, like, I don't know, I'm just getting so much satisfaction out of it. And then again, when you build these power plants, I've built, again, they keep costing more and more money, or more and more resources and money. But then now all of my like forges and my like factories and everything that I've built work faster. And every time that I build one anywhere on the land, like, it just works faster and faster.
Yeah.
And I've been able to expand my mining rod radiuses. And like, I don't know, it just feels really satisfying to like have more and more things on autopilot so that I
so
can
you
just
don't have
keep
to play the
maxing.
game. So you don't have to play the
game. So I can keep playing and keep maxing out other stuff. And like, I want it to just be to the point where like
You're not actually playing the game.
no, where I can just go into the dungeons and I'm still just raking in dough when I'm not even playing.
So
which I don't know
I've
if time
just
keeps
started
moving.
playing the game, and like, it is that the main motivation I have is unlocking new things and unlocking new mechanics, and then having that cascade down. So like, at the beginning, you know, you just have a pickaxe and you have an island with trees and rocks on it, and like some food that you can like forage. And like at the beginning, like that's all you're doing. And then after you collect a little bit, then you can start crafting some of the stuff. And then that unlocks other things. And then it just slowly introduces all these like extra mechanics. And it's just like the idea of like adding that one more level of complexity to it that just makes it be like, oh, I can't wait to see what the next thing is.
Right.
So you appreciate the fact that you have these mechanics, but it doesn't sound like it's dependent upon like, are these mechanics themselves enjoyable? You just like them for having them.
I think it's enjoyable. Like,
I find it enjoyable to play for sure. And but part of the it's very charming, the music and everything. You know, it's I enjoy being in the environment and world and whatnot.
It is very fetch questy, where it's like you need X amount of items before you can unlock this thing, and then that allows you to unlock another thing. It's just like a bunch of keys and a bunch of locks.
Yeah, the game is basically a giant checklist.
Yeah.
like once you level, like there's no once you get to level 64 or whatever, like there's 64 perks, like you will have them all at that point. And like once you have bought all the land, you have all the land. Like it's not like it keeps expanding beyond that.
That's
so
cool.
like it does but it is like, if you don't, I am somebody who likes just like making lists. I'm really OCD and collecting things and this and that. Like
Me too.
so if you're not somebody who just likes checking off lists and stuff, I don't know, like maybe something like Wilmot's Warehouse, you know, it's a totally different game, but like I feel like that's kind of a similar mindset of like, you just like having things in order and like having systems in place that you're kind of making up yourself, because you are able to kind of craft these islands a little bit yourself. You know, you're building bridges between them. Like John, when he gets to the point that I'm at in the game, like I do have all the land in the game, and like once he gets there, his land will probably look a little different than mine. Actually, probably quite a bit different once you build. Like you get quite a bit, quite a few different types of buildings.
I don't think the islands are the islands like.
I think they're set.
Generated?
No,
I
think they are set.
Okay,
yeah. I could be wrong about that, but it seems set to me. Like it just the way they were, like they cost more money as you keep expanding out. Like maybe it does shuffle them, you know, around like where it's not always in the exact same order, but it did seem like, oh, this is the island that has the ice dungeon on it, and this is the island that has like this area's, you know, room or secret area.
And I think like our priorities are different too, like in how we approach these games. Like you said, like you had only made like a couple of like the fish traps or whatever, and like I unlocked an island that just had a bunch of like water squares. Everyone was like, oh, I'm just gonna fill those with fish traps. And like I was just like, yeah, and then it's like, how else would you get sand?
Oh, I didn't know you can get sand from fish traps. You get a shovel later, and you can just dig up dirt, and you get sand a lot. And so I have perks now that you get sand every time you dig. Like it's crazy how things just stack and stack. Yeah, because I was like, stack.
That's how I make glass early on. Is I just have all these fish traps.
Yeah, it took me a while to get there. So yeah, that's interesting.
And it rewards different styles of play.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like you guys like the game. You love it as much as he loved making it, is what I'm saying.
I would say that's fair. That's fair. I do. I would say, I guess love would be a little bit of a strong term for me, but I'm having a blast. And like I said, I did have to pawn this game off on John. That was pretty good, Randall.
And Kevin did have to scold me to put the game down so we could start recording.
Yeah, it is meant to be addicting.
Yeah, and it is incredibly good at being addicting.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of that, John is dipping into another franchise that's scratching a similar itch.
Yeah.
What have you been playing lately, John?
So as a bit of background, like I've pre-ordered Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I've been waiting for that game to come out for years now.
Yep.
As a lot of people have.
Yep.
I was a big fan of New Leaf, and I was really excited to see where they were going to go while kind of keeping the same type of game.
Right.
So it's been basically hell for me waiting for this game to come out.
We're only, about a week-ish away? It's about 2 weeks away. It's the 20th?
It's the 20th.
Yeah, it's like end of
a little less than 2 weeks away.
8 days.
Okay.
I'm not counting down. Not anymore, because I bought Rune Factory 4, which was a 3DS game, and it's a port of a 3DS game, and it absolutely looks like a 3DS game.
Yeah, there's like big borders around the screen from what I saw.
Yeah, it looks like it. still looks good, but it definitely looks kind of like those like Final Fantasy remasters where it's just like high res textures, but the textures themselves aren't any better.
Yeah, they're still kind of chunky.
Yeah.
very sharp.
But Rune Factory 4 was a series that like I had always kind of knew that I would like, but for whatever reason I just never got into.
Oh, you've not? I thought you had played some of these.
No, I'd never done. And like,
it's an offshoot of Harvest Moon, right, or something like that. I think the first one was like had some tie to that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like directly related to, but it's definitely inspired. It's
same
genre,
developer, same general idea, just more action oriented stuff going on.
And a thing that like I hadn't realized until I started playing it was that it is also very similar to another game I love, which is Fantasy Life, which I think I may have mentioned on the podcast before, but it's a level 5 game on the 3DS as well. That like I kind of describe it to other people as a single player MMORPG.
I need to buy that game so bad.
Is there a subtitle after the name of that game? Fantasy Life something else?
I don't think so. They did create,
that doesn't sound familiar.
They have a sequel that was mobile that does have a like sub or a secondary title, but like yeah, and like it was Japan only was the mobile release for the sequel, and like there's no information about it on like Wikipedia or anything. It just says that it had like 2 million downloads in the first day. Because it's Fantasy Life is an incredible game where you like, if you like this type of game where you can be like so many different types of people, like you choose a class at the beginning, but you can switch them at any point, like, and you could play the entire game as that one class. Like you could be a baker and you could level up the entire way by just baking things. And like that, the whole game is like, oh, you don't really have to be like the typical, like, oh, you're a warrior that you're doing, like you're always doing battle quests. It's like, no, you can be a carpenter and like all you do is just build furniture and like put them in your house.
Is it like quest based that way too, though? Like if you're a carpenter or a baker, you're getting quests along those lines?
Yeah. And then like, so you have different levels and then you have to become like the master carpenter or the master like seamstress.
That sounds awesome.
It's an incredible game. I love it so much. And I really wish that Level 5 would make a sequel, but I don't think that they are, because I think they're just doing like yokai games and Ni no Kuni.
Well, they just came out with that new Snack World game that looks kind of weird and interesting.
And that's also in the same like a dungeon crawly like combat system that those games did have, and that Rune Factory has as well. But yeah, Rune Factory 4 is, you know, a game where you have the amnesia at the beginning of the game, and
weird.
You don't, but like it's typical JRPG fare. Like it hits all the story beats, but it's very charming. You're in this small town where everybody's really nice to you, but they all have their own shops and their own jobs that they do. So you go around and you do quests for them, and you have a farm like that you till and you raise crops, and you can like catch monsters, and some of the monsters will produce like eggs or milk and fur, and then you can craft that into like better equipment or better stuff. And like it's also very similar to Stardew Valley, which like I actually didn't know if like I know that like the creator of Stardew Valley was like really inspired by Harvest Moon, but I also don't know if there was anything in like Rune Factory as well that factored into that, because Rune Factory feels exactly like Stardew Valley.
Interesting, because there's definitely, I mean, there's more of that dungeon. I haven't played much Harvest Moon. I don't know if anybody else has any experience with the series much, but
no,
I don't think there was much of like the dungeon crawling, if any.
I don't think that you had magic, like fantasy elements where you were like slaying dragons, but like that's definitely present in like both Stardew Valley and like again, and similar to Stardew Valley, you have these relationships with all these people, and like you can develop those and get like stronger, and like eventually have them as in your party that you can take them out and have like fighting areas with them.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Also another thing that is, I don't know, kind of similar to Forager and just numbers going up, like there is a skill for basically literally every action in Rune Factory 4. Like, there is a bathing skill, there is an eating skill, there is a walking skill. So like every single action, there's a sleeping skill.
Wow.
And like every single one of those, like, and that's something that
And how do you level these things up? Like,
just
what
by
do you,
doing
just by,
them. Like,
okay.
And it's so like,
way.
Yeah.
which is honestly like kind of it's a mechanic that, you know, that's in like Skyrim, where like if you want to get better at magic, you just use more magic. If you want to get better at lockpicking, you just do that. And I love that. Like, and I joke around that Quest 64 was the first one that did that, where, oh, you want better earth magic, just keep using earth magic.
I mean, it's a good point. I mean, if that's what the way you like playing, and then it keeps getting more fun or more powerful to play that way, makes sense. You know?
Good game design.
I looked and I was like super overbalanced in my dual sword skill because that was my favorite weapon. And I was like, all right, I should try something else. And I really love the fact that like there's basically always a sense of progress in the game. Like similar to like Stardew Valley, like you have an energy skill. It's an RP meter instead of like MP or something.
Yeah.
And that's what anytime that you craft, you use that. Anytime you use a special attack, or you're like gathering like crops or mining or anything, that's what you're using. And like if you're kind of at the end point where you can't regain any from eating or from doing that, then you just call it a day and you just rest. And there is a clock that like is going like the entire time, but you're not really as restricted as you are in like Stardew Valley.
Yeah, and neither are you in Forager. You can kind of like the day and night cycle is just kind of for aesthetic.
Yeah. Whereas like Stardew Valley, like, yeah, if you get too late, like you basically just like
die, kind of
pass out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The day just resets.
Yeah. Have you played any Stardew Valley, Randall or DJ?
Not a ton of Stardew Valley on my side, although I do own Rune Factory 4 on 3DS. And
nice.
I actually did play a little bit of it, but I bounced off quickly because of the super cliched story intro stuff. I'm like, guys, I just wasn't in the right mood for it.
No, it's very goofy, and like that's probably the weakest part of the game.
Yeah.
But I think it is incredibly effective at getting me sucked in. Like, I just bought it as like a way to distract me, like as waiting for Animal Crossing.
Sure.
And then like the next day I was like, oh God, I've already put like 10 hours into this game.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm already kicking myself because I should have pushed through to see some of these systems, because I think I would have got hooked once I got into some of these systems that they're introducing. It sounds great to me.
Yeah. And it's the same thing of like, you know, you just do more and you unlock more things.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten to the point where I'm unlocking better like cooking dishes, and I'm unlocking better equipment that I can craft, and then I'm selling that, and then I can buy more things.
Man.
And it just keeps going.
Talking my language.
Is there anything about that game that is difficult?
Yeah, the dungeons themselves, like there's actual like boss battles that like the combat is I think a much stronger part of this game than in like say like Stardew Valley, like,
or even Forager. Again, I haven't gone into the dungeons much, but there's occasionally like random enemies, and it's like from what I can tell, it's more similar to Stardew, where it's just like you just kind of do it to get more shit.
As long as you have enough health and enough strength, like you can do it. But like the boss battles, and they're like various enemies. So like they're like the first time that you actually get magic, they're like, hey, sometimes a weapon's just not going to be effective. And like, so then you have to like change what you're using. And it's I would say that Stardew Valley has a much clunkier like item select and like weapon select system than this. Like this one has like, if you hold R, or maybe even just click R, it basically pauses and pulls up an item menu that at the bottom of the screen, and you can easily swap out on any different like weapon or magic or anything. And then like you typically have like your magic equipped to like hotkeys like the X and Y, or you hold R and then you get X and Y, so you have 4 that you can have.
Okay.
But like anytime that you are using a weapon, like you can swap that out super easy. And like, you know, there's a bit of mobility. Like the bosses have like various attacks, and you're trying to like dodge them. And I think every boss that I've encountered has like 2 phases, so there's a lot more put into the actual combat than a lot of these other, like, I don't know what you would call this genre, like
farming sims,
or like
I don't know. Or
I've also heard like
builder
make work
Sims?
games.
Yeah,
life sims.
Yeah, they're just autopilot sims. I don't know, but yeah, you said you haven't played any much like Stardew or Harvest Moon or anything like that, DJ, right?
No, this is not really my genre. But
I was going to say you looked a little perked up there.
Well, a month or two ago, Sims 4 was the PS Plus free game, so I've got it. So
have you ever played a Sims?
I have not.
Ooh,
so
very interesting.
Yeah.
I think that, like, in these genres of games, like, a thing that like feels really good is just kind of like building a world to like your like preferences.
Yeah.
So I'd be very interested to see, especially like in The Sims, like what you would do in that.
The Sims is just fun to fuck around in too, honestly.
Yeah. Because like Sims is a lot easier to like, I don't know, like start from scratch and just like do a new thing. Like it's very different from like these types of games.
Yeah.
And that's also fun to like poke and prod at like how you can break the systems a little bit in The Sims.
Okay.
So
I would like you
going in relatively blind. So.
I would like you to play it. Just like I want to know what you do.
Oh, I've got the game, so I'll play it. Unlike some other people.
DJ gets. I don't know if there's anybody that gets more value out of their PlayStation Plus than DJ. Which, if John, if you're done talking about Rune Factory 4, I think we can move on to what DJ's
been
playing.
Me to talk.
Just milking that PlayStation Plus for everything it's worth.
About I want to say around a year ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think SOMA. That's when SOMA came to the PS4.
Via PS Plus.
Yeah. So that's a nice little sci-fi horror game, and I'm not one that typically goes for the horror genre because I can't take it too long. I just get
too spooked.
Yeah, we talked about it a few episodes ago, probably 4 or 5 episodes ago. We talked a little about this stuff.
Yeah, mainly like if it's a first person horror, it's just like first person and like there's complete silence. I just get just filled with dread, and it's hard for me. Like, so I think around the time it actually came out, like started playing the game, it's like you're this dude who like was in a car accident, you're going in to like get a brain scan. So like as you're getting the scan, then you're suddenly in this like abandoned like warehouse type area, and it's all dark, and I'm like, what the fuck? And so I kind of just shut it off there and hadn't touched it in around about a year. But I decided to go back, decided to
put it on the back burner,
prepare myself, give myself a year to prepare for this.
Build up the courage.
Yeah. But I'm actually really glad that I returned to this, because it's not like some horror games like PT or wherever where it's like constant dread the entire time. There's like, this game is decently divided up between like, here's like kind of a scary monster part, and then here's this like, you're learning the story about this world that you're in, and it's a very, for me, like very interesting philosophical, like, I don't know, lots of questions about, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be human? Like, how do we deal with like artificial intelligences and all this type of stuff?
Yeah, the usual sci-fi questions and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And I ended up being like very, even by the end, like emotionally invested in what was going on, which is not at all what I expected going in. But yeah, like I'm really glad it did have that division, because like it made it easier for me to like see the light at the end of the tunnel, rather than thinking I'm just gonna be like stressed the entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you could definitely tell like when you get to a point where it's just like, okay, this is the part where I have to kind of like go around this area, figure out like what parts I need to be able to advance. And the story of the game, like spoilers, I guess.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah. So the world has been struck by a meteor, and so humanity has essentially gone extinct. Basically, the only survivors are like these scientists who just happen to like work at the bottom of the ocean, and so they're
geez.
And that's where you wake up. You are the brain scan of that man who had the car accident. So you're a robot, and that's revealed pretty early. So that's not really a spoiler.
Yeah.
But your main quest, like you find this other like brain scan who is able to communicate. It's essentially like you're talking to a human, because that's the point they're trying to make, is like, you know, even if you're not exactly like human, if you're starting with a brain scan of a human and left to go on, like, you're essentially like what a human is.
Right. Yeah. What's the distinction at some point?
Yeah. And what your friend Catherine, she's the one who created all these scans with the intention of launching like this satellite that contains all the scans and will like have them activate in like this virtual this VR world. So it'll be kind of like while real Earth is dying, like the last remnants of humanity, quote unquote, like will live on in what Earth could have been or whatever.
Right. Okay.
So what is the game structure? Is this like a puzzle-based horror game, or is this a combat-based horror?
It's one of those where you're hiding from monsters.
Okay, so
you never
stealth?
fight. Yes.
Okay.
That's interesting, because I know they did release, this is one of those games that like got a patch, because it was one of those like people, you know, were like, it's too scary or it's too hard. I can't remember what the exact complaint was, but it was like they definitely released like a mode of the game.
They added a safe mode where you can't die. So the monsters are just scary, but they can't kill you.
Interesting.
But yeah, so
there's like no walls that could stop you from progressing in the game, essentially.
Right.
If you were to get stuck somewhere, I guess.
Right.
You just need to like move forward.
Yeah. And I wonder how effective the creepiness would be if you were playing in that mode.
With no risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
depends on the monsters.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, because you're going to be talking about after this, like Resident Evil 7.
I will.
Like I've watched, I have not played that game, but I've seen both Let's Plays of that game and speed runs of that game. And it is surprising how different that game feels between the two.
Yes.
In that, like, watching a Let's Play of that game was very effective at, like, I would just also like getting like scared and like unsettled by it. And then watching a speed run of that game, I was just like, wow, this looks hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny. That's
like seeing someone who is so adept at avoiding every single, like, basically frightening part of that game.
Oh, wow.
And like just moving past like like knowing how like enemies are triggering or events are happening.
I'd be curious in that. I don't typically look into that stuff.
Right. I know, I kind of want to see that too.
Yeah. Because I've been getting, I mean, not to jump the gun on Resident Evil, I've been getting the sense that like everything is like, I don't know, non-breakable. But
it is more fluid in that, like, I guess, like, and like talking about like all of the Resident Evils, like especially the remake of 2.
They remade 1 and 2 recently. 3's coming out soon.
Right. I think they announced in 3, because 3 was with Nemesis.
Yeah.
I think they announced that in the remake of 3 that Nemesis could enter safe rooms.
Yep,
now.
I saw that too.
Fuck off.
And I was just like,
man.
oh God, that's just too much.
Well, we'll do a little editing.
Yeah.
No, like, so with Soma, there is no combat. It is just hiding. And then you'll get to these points where, like, you know, so your friend Catherine is like loaded into this tool you've got, and you hook it up to various computers throughout the game, and she boots up, and which raises the question, like, you know, what does she experience while she's not plugged in? And the way they explain the game, it's like, it's it's just one moment jumping to another. She doesn't perceive the time in between at all.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting concept. Yeah.
Oh man, this
is right up your alley.
Well, this is even speaking to me, who I think I voiced that I'm not super into this style of game typically, but man, I've got it on my PS Plus. But I kind of cut you off, John.
Well, no, this goes back to when we had movie night, and I was saying that you need to watch the Ghost in the Shell anime series, not just the movie. And there's some really good talks about AI.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm very interested in this game.
I want you to play this so bad.
Maybe we'll get around to having John over. He does not have a PS4, but like I said, it's on mine, and he lives right across the street. So
there you go.
Have you over one of these days and play it. But what about Resident Evil 7, DJ? How far are you into that?
Again, I played it years ago and stopped. And actually just
I can't blame you on that one. I kind of did the same.
Yeah.
It's incredibly effective.
Oh, it's intense.
Yeah.
Even when I was watching that Let's Play, I was watching it with Lauren, and she was also both scared and transfixed. She's like, I want to keep watching this.
Yeah. I have that feeling I want to keep playing, I'm into this game, but sometimes when I boot it up, I'm just
not right now.
Maybe it's time to play Rocket League.
Yeah, right.
So I got to on my first run, I got to around the part where you get the flamethrower, if you know, if you're familiar. And I just decided to start from the beginning just because that's one of those games where there's so many pieces that it's what pieces needed to move forward, and I feel if you put the game down, you kind of you might as well just start over. And I didn't think I was that far, but god damn, even when I know what stuff was coming, it's still
and this you have a little more agency, right? I'm assuming you have weapons,
guns,
and yeah. And this is first person though, right?
Yeah. So
is that the first Resident Evil game in first person?
Yeah.
Because I think this game also has VR, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah.
That seems nuts.
Yeah.
That's a heart attack.
I've heard that this game is terrifying.
I would like to try that pretty bad.
I kind of want to try it too, but oh man.
I would never want to try it in a million years.
It's weird though, because I do have the ability to kill things, and therefore it seems like I should be less scared in a way, but the way it's crafted,
it's not I think it does kind of become a shooting gallery, which is a problem that I have with a lot of horror games, is that they really thrive on making you feel powerless, but then by the end of the game you are powerful, and you can just kind of breeze through it, and things that were scary you can now dispatch of. And I think that is a typical problem specifically with the Resident Evil series.
That
on the other hand though, for a horror genre, I guess you can't have the game remain too scary, because then people won't be enticed to play it. So is that necessary? Do you need to make them feel more powerful and more confident?
Or do they just need to be shorter?
That's a good question, yeah.
Well, how long was SOMA? Is it a shorter, because it sounds like it's more of a story heavy.
I want to say 8 to 10 hours ish.
Okay, so nice. Somewhat meaty.
I could be underestimating that. I'm not sure.
So meatier than I expected, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, though one thing with that is I think there's maybe a slight lack of guidance with that game. I think there were some points, especially when you're in the actual just bottom of the ocean, not inside any facilities or whatever, where there's a little bit of a where do I go element. So I think maybe my gameplay might be inflated a little bit by my stupidity.
That's inevitable in any game though. I feel
but I think Resident Evil's very clear about where to go. I'd say even when you load up, save file, during the load screen, it'll say what your character's trying to accomplish during that time. It's got
Nice.
it's got like a objective list or whatever.
Not as straightforward as PT,
Ugh.
where you just have one hallway.
Oh
Don't
my
even get me
God.
started
Yeah.
again.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
But are you looking forward to playing? Are you planning on playing more?
I did make it a little bit farther. I do want to keep playing. It's just it's hard. I need to play like either with someone or just like talking out loud. Just because like I can't tolerate the complete silence.
The
sometimes.
tension or
like,
whatever,
I
yeah.
need to cut
Oh, yeah.
that somehow.
Is there like no soundtrack for the most part?
Only when for the most part, yeah. Like when you go into the safe rooms, that's the only time. And like, I think that's a effective thing to do is just like
Sounds
play
really
some music.
effective.
Okay,
Yeah.
Firelink
Yeah.
Shrine.
Well, they did it first.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds pretty cool. I'm definitely
Oh,
interested to check that out at least at some point.
That'd be a possible stream in the future.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, let's try it. I haven't done much Resident
If you want to,
Evil stuff.
see, like, just catch a bunch of me screaming and clipping the audio.
Marathon.
We'll keep the mic volume on low. But if you're good to wrap that stuff
good.
up, DJ, we can move on to Randall, who's been playing some NBA 2K20,
Oh,
which
weird.
is unfortunately the only NBA we're gonna get for a little while. I think.
right?
So.
Yep.
Pretty wild these days. The season is halted, so you have to get your fix someplace else. And for most people that actually keep up with the NBA, that would be playing NBA 2K21. But for me, because I'm a cheapskate and because I bought NBA 2K20 for $3 on 2 different platforms,
Ooh,
it
good
means I
lord.
get to play NBA 2K20 still on my Xbox One X in 4K. And I love the My GM mode in that. I've talked about it on the podcast before. It's still what I'm playing. And by playing, I mean looking at a lot of basically spreadsheets on my 4K TV. It's a lot less of actually playing the game.
Still got the Detroit Bad Boys.
So I started out with the Toronto Raptors because I wanted a
Ooh.
squad that had talent.
Oh, you wanted Vince Carter? No.
I wanted Pascal Siakam and some of those other dudes, Kyle Lowry. But ultimately, they were just trade bait so that I could get more draft picks to get better players down the road because, you know, as time goes on, those guys get older. They're not worth their hefty contracts. You might get a better player from the draft that's even better than Pascal Siakam. You don't know.
Not likely.
So I started out in like, I started out in, you know, 2K20. So like it's 2020 in the game, or 2019, I guess. You kind of play through a few seasons, you iterate. Maybe you make the playoffs, maybe you don't. I'm simming most, if not all of the games. I'm not actually playing most of the games because that takes too long. So, you let the computer simulate to see what results you get with the lineups you have. And, you know, every so often players get injured and that can throw off a whole season or whatever. But, you know, I had GM'd enough that I won in 2023 and, you know, made it to 2024, kind of tore the team down as I am wont to do. Rebuilt it with some of my drafted players and Jaylen Brown because he's really good on defense and stuff.
Yeah.
But then over time, my owner got more and more pissed off at me because he's like, hey, dude, just stay underneath the luxury tax. Like, I'm not built to money here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's kind of hard for me to do. So over time, you have a trust meter with your
Cracking
owner.
the
You
whip.
actually have a trust meter with every player and staff, you know, in your whole organization that you have to talk to every so often. In a way, it's kind of like a sim game.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say this almost sounds like Forager.
Or
Yeah.
resource management. Yeah.
Yes, lots of resource management, lots of numbers, and you know, like setting things up so they can do themselves. Yes, there is some Forager that way.
Yeah.
But no, I would never stay under the luxury tax because I got to re-sign my players. You know, you get the bird rights with some of these guys you have on your team. You can re-sign them for like a shit ton of money, but then they'll stay around. And, you know, I want to see them at their max capabilities, so I'm going to do that. So eventually he fired me.
Is that a lose state?
Is that game
in the
over?
game?
It is essentially a game over in a sense, and you have options in all these conversations where you can choose how to handle it. And based on that, your trust goes up and down with the people you're talking to or the people that conversation might affect. So in this case, like, you can say, like, leave cordially and, like, thank him for the opportunity, or you can, like, throw a total shit fit and, like, flip the table, basically. And, of course, I picked shit fit because why would you? You're firing me anyway.
You want a championship.
Yeah, like, I am the man here. I won a championship. I put this whole damn team together. You're just paying the money. So I got fired.
Does a shit fit present any benefits?
No.
Do you get a good cutscene directed by Spike Lee or something?
Yeah,
do they have that in this game? Like, I know one of the games has, like, infamously has, like, Spike Lee directed all the cutscenes in the story mode.
Oh my god!
And it's pretty
2K19.
famously terrible.
Yeah. I want to say it might have been 2K20, although that was mostly for the My Career mode, I believe, where you control just one dude and it kind of goes through that story, and he goes to China or whatever and kind of builds up over time to get into the NBA. But yeah, so then I got fired and I got picked up by the Pistons, and so now I am back with the Pistons and restarting all over again. And so I started out in, season 2020 or whatever, and I'm in season 2042 now.
Oh my God. Are there any players still in the league?
No.
Vince Carter.
Yeah, Vince Carter.
In his sixth decade.
So
80-year-old Vince Carter.
I've like 2 or 3 times I've already iterated through like all the players on the roster, like gotten rid of them when they've gotten pissed off and the whole team revolts against me. So I trade them all away. I bring the salary cap way down. I draft a bunch of players that like me better, and I get some high quality, high price free agents. And now we're making it a run at it again. Who knows what 2043 might bring? We almost made the finals last year, so
hey.
And I got some high draft picks too, so more to come, unfortunately.
Bring one back home to Michigan for us, Randall.
That's right.
Oh man, that's good stuff. I mean, I can't see myself getting as hooked on this as you are. Like,
no, I couldn't see you doing that either.
But I got to be honest. I mean, when me and my brother would play like Madden or whatever sports game, basketball, almost any sports game, NHL, and we would just play season after season after season, and just not necessarily. It wasn't like an ongoing saga where there'd be new people. We would just, restart a new season and try to make the playoffs. And like, I mean, I don't know. I just did that a lot, almost mindlessly.
Oh yeah.
But I had a lot of fun doing it. So
are there a lot of differences between like 2K19 and this one?
No. It's very much like the same engine with like new, updated rosters for that time, which of course are outdated now because 2K21 has been out for a while. They made some minor tweaks, but for like the sake of my GM mode, it's kind of more or less the same. They try to throw in some like cutscenes every so often to make it not just spreadsheets, but the cutscenes aren't really that great, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And they tend to repeat themselves once you go through about 10 or 20 seasons.
But would you prefer
Which is fair
playing
enough.
like this version? Like, will you go back to like 2K19, or will you just be playing this one?
I'll probably play this one. And they actually just had a 2K21 like free event weekend that let me have the opportunity to try out the my GM mode in that, and they've made it a lot more complicated and like task oriented. Where I'm not sure I'm that into that, so I might just stick with this one until it's
stick with that $3 purchase. Yeah, until the next NBA playoffs, whenever that might be.
Maybe in August. Who knows?
Yeah,
we'll see.
We will see.
It's LeBron's year,
or was it Giannis's year?
I know, right?
Oh man. Well, you got any more to add on the NBA stuff, Randall?
I mean, there's always more to add, but no, I should stop talking about NBA.
Yeah, I guess we are kind of glazing over 20 years worth of basketball here. So, if there's more to say, please.
No, there's not. It all presents itself in a spreadsheet format. All of these people are numbers to me.
Do you remember who the last real player on your team was?
Oh boy. We had Jason Robert Covington for a while, and just because I love the defensive dudes, like he's a 3-and-D type of guy. Those are the guys I typically go after. So, but then he got too old, obviously, at a certain point.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I think we could pretty much wrap it up there this week for the video game talk. But as always, you can find us online at pursuingpixels.com. We're on Twitter at Pursuing Pixels. We're on Instagram at Pursuing Pixels. And I know we talked a little bit about maybe doing some streams during this podcast. John and I actually did do a stream a couple of weeks ago. Or maybe like a week ago. Whenever it was, it doesn't matter. It's on our Twitch, and I think we even uploaded it on YouTube, which is, I don't think we have YouTube/Pursuing Pixels, but you can look us up on Pursuing Pixels. I don't think we have enough clout on YouTube yet to get the slash and choose the name. So it's a string of a bunch of numbers.
We'll
but
get there.
We'll put a link to the, I will actually do this. I'll say it on the podcast, and I'll actually put a link to the stream in the podcast, or at least to our Twitch page. There might even be a link to our Twitch on the bottom of our info of every podcast, but
that was
a
Risk of Rain 2 stream, right?
What's that?
Risk of Rain 2, right?
Yeah, Risk of Rain 2. It was a good like hour-long stream that just one run that John and I did, and it was really fun and pretty informative for me personally. I've still like not unlocked a ton of stuff. John has kind of unlocked a ton of stuff.
Nice.
Not everything, but a lot of stuff. And he kind of
Waiting
walked
for
through
that
like a
next
lot of the
update,
mechanics,
baby.
like really taught me a lot about the game because it doesn't explain much to you at all. So if you're like, man, I kind of bounced off this game, I don't know what's going on, I think it's a pretty informative video.
Nice.
It's not nonstop information for an hour, but you might enjoy it for a little bit.
Stray off topic.
Yeah, just a little bit. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you all next week. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you talked a little Tech Mobile, depending on how long that went, I have also been I've played through about 2 worlds of Super Mario World. That's just been my kind of idle time.
Yeah.
Chipping away on the Nintendo Online stuff. So we could just kind of mention that stuff in passing.
Which
Let's
is
go.
wild because when I
Keep
was
the retro stuff rolling.
Yeah, let's do it.
streams, that was one of the first things that you ever streamed was Super Mario World.
It was.
I did that on my computer. I downloaded an emulator and then ran that because that was after I think that was when after my other streaming thing broke, and I was didn't have a device at the time, so I was like, if I have an emulator I can do screen capture, and I figured out how to do that at some point.
Did your AverMedia break, by the way, Kevin? Because you said you didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, it did, yeah. But only because DJ tripped over the cable and it ripped out the socket of the input. So it wasn't because it was a faulty device. It worked pretty well for me.
All right.
What's that?
And I didn't pay you for it.
No, I wanted this other one anyways. So
Anyways.
That's Three Stooges ass.
yeah, fucking Mo
It was
over
just
here.
one stooge.